Mick Doyle joins us again to go over some Premier League action, and we've got midweek action this week, so we're going to look back on what just happened over the weekend and look forward to this weekend as well. How are you keeping, Mick?
All good, Dave. All good. Everything's good here, yeah. You're looking very lit up there now.
Yeah. Lots of lights on there, yeah. So we had a few upsets last weekend. There was a top three all dropping points. What did you make of last weekend's action?
Yeah, it was, you were looking like Liverpool were going to open a bit of a gap, especially Chelsea losing surprisingly to Everton, and then Spurs, dropping 2 points against Palace. But, to say that, Spurs dropped 2 points, probably Palace, were excellent on the day, to be honest. Their goalkeeper was top drawer, pulled off some excellent saves, and Palace were probably full value for the point. But Liverpool drawing at Fulham was a big shock. We all would have thought that Liverpool would steamroll them. I think we were saying that it would be an easy 2-0 victory and Liverpool would pull up at a canter.
And again, Fulham, probably good value for that as well. A couple of contentious penalty decisions. I thought the Liverpool penalty was very harsh, but we know the new rules are if it hits the arm, hits the hand, it's going to be given. But his arm didn't go towards the ball. It wasn't in an unnatural position, I thought. What did you think of those decisions yourself?
Yeah, well, the one in the wall is, it's unlucky, but at the same time, with the rules, it is a pen. I'm not really buying this thing about the arm not being in this description of an unnatural.
If his arm wasn't there, it's going to hit him on the chest.
Well, it would have hit the guy beside him as well. Common sense there, you think, okay, that's not a penalty because this was going to happen. But with the kind of, football is gone very black and white now. The grey area has been taken out of it by VAR. But the penalty that Fulham should have been awarded, and I know some people are saying, well, he, it's divided opinion a bit, but he very clearly takes his foot as he's about to plant it in the ground, and it takes him out, and that was definitely, that was definitely a pen, especially when it's slowed down. I mean, you can say that the referee missed it because it was, it was so quick. But the thing is, VAR is there for these reasons, for these kind of, for these points that, the human eye can miss. Because if that was in real time and there was no VAR, it looks like it's not a penalty because the ball moves sharply to the right, so it looks like it's not. But when you're looking at it again on VAR, it's a penalty all day. So, Fulham can feel hard done by, but, they would have been delighted with the point before the game, obviously, and it gives them massive confidence now going forward. You give Fulham a fighting chance now of staying up. A couple of weeks ago, Scott Parker was one of the favourites to lose his job, and, they've really kind of started playing well. They had an excellent win over Leicester as well. So, Scott Parker's starting to get a tune out of these guys.
Yeah, they've definitely started to turn it around. And, as you were saying with VAR, it seems to have left the opinion up to the VAR official that's watching it, and they're as inconsistent as ever with their decisions. So who knows these days? Well, will we get on to this weekend? Because we got some games tonight. We've got one at 6:00. Wolves are at home to Chelsea, which looks like it should be a good game. Wolves lost to Villa there at the weekend, but they probably look like they've kind of changed their style to play without Jimenez, and Silva played up front. What did you make of Wolves last weekend?
Well, I just thought that Wolves are definitely missing that focal point up front with Jimenez missing it, and they don't really have anything else there of a similar ilk. You're looking at Fabio Silva, the young guy that they signed from Portugal last season for big money. He's not going to be able to play that role. Now, Wolves and Chelsea, Chelsea slipped up last weekend, which wasn't, we didn't see that coming at all. Everton had been very poor. Now, what I would say is that, even though they lost 1-0 to Everton, they did have 72% possession. So they did dominate the game. Everton were always going to invite them onto them. But there seemed to be goals in Everton every time on the break. I mean, we spoke last week about, Everton being strong where Chelsea are a little bit weak. I do think that Chelsea backline, their centre halves, can be got at with pace. Leeds scored against them.
Yeah.
Had a big chance of a penalty at 2-1 down in that same game as well. Didn't get it. If they get that, they score, it's 2-2 after 80 minutes. It's a different game. But, Chelsea, I'm just looking at them. People are saying, Chelsea are title contenders, and they absolutely are. But the only thing I would say, is Olivier Giroud or Tammy Abraham good enough to fire you to the title? They invested in so many different areas. They have Timo Werner, they have Havertz, they have Mount, all these guys, but they're lacking, that number 9 or that kind of that something that can play at the top and let these kind of younger, faster players play off him. And Giroud, people have been saying, he's an excellent player. He scored so many goals in the European game, but still at the same time, he was let go by Arsenal. He's Chelsea were pretty happy to let him go last January as well if they had to get the right offer for him. And like the top scorer for Chelsea at the moment is Zuma. 4 goals.
Oh yeah, in the Premier League. I didn't realise that.
Premier League, yeah, that's the stat I found today. Yeah, Zuma, 4 goals.
Yeah,
So the
you're
goals
going to
have been spread out.
You would be expecting more out of Werner, and with his pace, especially. I don't know if he has been as prolific as he was before he came to Chelsea, but you would expect him to click. He is a threat, but he's not putting away every chance, is he, Werner?
No, and he had a great chance against Spurs, and he just ran offside as well. It was kind of a very silly offside that he had. Now, I watched him in the Champions League last year, and he did kind of play through the middle for Leipzig a little bit, but he kind of would pull out to that left side because I think that's where he favours coming from. But yeah, they are lacking that number 9. With Wolves, it's the same thing really. Without Raúl Jimenez, they're also lacking that presence up front. They've been, last week they went out with Fabio Silva and then Podence, Neto and Traore behind him. Now, João Moutinho is going to be suspended for this one because he was sent off in the last game. So you look at Ruben Neves coming in. I just think Chelsea will probably have a little bit much for Wolves, but at this time of the year as well, you'll see a lot of unpredictable results. Last weekend we were probably seeing the impact of the European games start to take their toll on the top teams. And those teams that are playing from weekend to weekend, maybe they're going to kind of bounce back a little bit now. You had the crowds made a huge difference last week, I felt, especially in the Fulham and Crystal Palace games. It was only 2,000, but it was 2,000 in a small stadium, in a small section of that stadium. So it sounded like a lot more. The acoustics there were quite good for a small crowd. And you could hear the Palace fans, cheering on their team, and the Fulham fans as well. It was, there was a good atmosphere there.
Yeah.
Now, I know the restrictions and the tiers have changed in the London area, and they're changing almost on a daily basis in the UK. So some of those fans I don't think will be allowed back in, especially in London. But if we're looking at this one, you have to look at Chelsea's quality, that they probably will bounce back. They're still on 22 points, 3 off the top. So you're looking at Chelsea will probably be back at the back at the top of the table maybe tonight, I think.
So you're going for Chelsea winning that one. That's today at 6 o'clock. Also tonight we have City at home to West Brom. City will be hoping for a quick start in this game, I think, and try get it out of the way as quickly as possible. They might get nervy the longer it goes on. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, you look at City against United and the Manchester derby, and it was it's almost like Pep Guardiola came to England with this kind of, I'm going to play football no matter what attitude, and this is how we do it, and this is my philosophy, and I'm sticking to it. In the Manchester derby, he picked 2 holding midfielders in Rodri and Fernandinho. So, we're looking at City, and we spoke about this a few weeks ago, that it is a massive time of transition for City now. And it has been probably building for the last couple of years. They've lost company. And I know that's a while ago now, but they've lost David Silva. Aguero is not the player he was, and he hasn't been playing much because of injury. Fernandinho is, he's moving on now as well. So that's the spine to that kind of really successful team that they had when they were playing fantastic football. And even if you look at Kevin De Bruyne now and his body language, he seems to be frustrated. And like after the Spurs game, he was coming out and saying that, it's just not working. Now, he wasn't saying it in like that he was protesting or criticizing anyone. He was just kind of his own frustration, saying that it will come back, it will. But they just aren't creating, and they're not moving the ball at the same pace that they used to.
Yeah.
I don't think teams fear City as much as they did before. Now, in
No.
saying that, like, it's a West Brom game now this week. Go on.
No, yeah, no. I was just saying because I was saying it before the Manchester derby last week. You don't fear them up front, apart from Sterling, who can destroy you for pace, might not take his first or second chance. If Aguero plays, it's a totally different team. It's a totally different thing you're facing. I know you just said that Aguero isn't the player he was. He's always kind of had injuries, but if Aguero plays, he scores. He's a huge threat. Like, I mean, to be without an Aguero in your team, I'm a huge fan of his, and I think if he might get the start tonight in this game, I think if they're easing him back in, but if he plays, he scores for me. I think it's all down to Aguero in attack.
Yeah, but is he 32, 33 now? And, I think when we think of City, and even before the Manchester derby, I was probably guilty of this. You're almost going back to that image of Aguero scoring that goal against QPR and ripping his shirt off, and how sensational he was back then. But, time stands still for no man. Like, he's moving on now. They're probably going to let him go at the end of the season. That's the talk. And yeah, I think there's a major overhaul to be like. I was quite surprised at the fact that Guardiola actually signed a new contract. I thought that he would probably move on, that he mightn't have the taste for the he mightn't have the taste for the battle. Like, but look, they're definitely going to get over West Brom anyway. This isn't really going to be the problem. And there is a school of thought out there as well that City aren't pressing as much because of the compressed season, and they're trying to conserve energy, and they'll look to kind of hit their peak in January or February. Well, if that's the case, it's a masterstroke. But in the Manchester derby, they really looked poor, I thought.
Yeah, I just gone through a few little stats there on Aguero to throw at you. Last year, 16 goals. Year before, 21 goals. Year before, 21 goals. Year before, 20 goals. Who said he's getting old?
Well, he dropped 21 to 16. I'm not Pythagoras, but that's a 25% drop in efficiency.
Yeah, but he was injured a bit as well. But that's always been, I think, if Aguero hadn't been so injury prone in his whole his whole time in the Premier League, he would have absolutely blitzed it. So you're going for a City win there. That's tonight, 8:00. City to beat West Brom.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 100% on that.
Okay, tomorrow at 6:00 as well. 6:00 on Wednesday. We've got Arsenal at home to Southampton. Arsenal, it doesn't get any easier. Southampton put 3 goals past Sheffield United the other day. They look so confident, and the goals just keep coming.
Yeah, Southampton have been fantastic this season, really. They're fourth now in the league, 23 points. Had a nice 3-0 victory over Sheffield United. They've won 7 games now, so that's actually the same as Spurs and Liverpool. Danny Ings is back. Only Liverpool have actually scored, more goals than Southampton now. So Southampton have 24, Liverpool have 27. And even watching them the other night, and I know it's only Sheffield United, but Theo Walcott seems to be, almost reborn. He's
keeping Redmond out of team, who played brilliantly last season.
Yeah, and Redmond came on and scored as well. So, good that Southampton can have a little bit of depth to their squad. I mean, look, they mightn't have the same squad depth as the likes of, Liverpool without their injuries, or the bigger clubs. But at the same time, they've Che Adams up there, who's been doing really well, a useful player. We spoke about Ward-Prowse before. Danny Ings, of course, being back. Redmond coming on, scoring. The only thing with Southampton is they have City and Liverpool in the next 4 games. So that'll be a little bit of a test for them. But we go to Arsenal then, and,
where do you start, Mick? Where do you start with Arsenal?
Well, on a plus side, Aubameyang broke his scoring duck that he's a nice near-post header. Fortunately, it was just into the wrong end. Arsenal have now lost 7 games. It turns out, Dave, that it might be a risky strategy to give a job to Arteta, who had, managed 1 football game before when Pep Guardiola was away at City. So, you think about this thing about appointing an assistant, even if he was at, Manchester City, a club that is probably has one of the best structures in the world built for their manager, especially for Pep Guardiola. Or signing players for Pep Guardiola 2 to 3 years before he arrived. got his former support team in from Barcelona, and he's going from City, who have one of the best setups, to Arsenal, who changed their setup, I think a couple of years ago, and restructured their whole scouting system and football management side of things behind the scenes. But going in there, it's just like Arsenal just seems to be a basket case right now. If you look at only Fulham, West Brom, and Sheffield United have lost more games, even against Burnley. We were speaking before the game, and you couldn't back Arsenal against anyone in the division now, to be honest, with any confidence. Look, maybe they'll bounce back against Southampton. That Southampton will probably let them play, but there's been kind of rumours of fallouts with David Luiz, and once you see this kind of stuff coming out in the press, there's kind of leaking all over the place. I think Luiz and Danny Ceballos seemingly had a training ground bust up, and it was leaked through multiple agents supposedly. And Arteta vowed to find out who the mole was or something. But if the dressing room is leaking all over the place, there seems to be kind of issues there. He's fallen out with players. It's like he tried to come in and have the strong-handed approach. He got rid of Guendouzi and a couple of these guys. I think he also kind of slated Pepe after the after that headbutt. Now, it was stupid, but players are very sensitive. I don't think he should be slating them publicly.
He's going to need him, isn't he? He's going to need him further on in the season.
That's it. He hasn't what's the alternative? He puts out. It's the kids he put out in the UEFA, or what do you call that, Thursday night European trophy now?
Europa.
The Europa. Yeah, it's changed more names more times. But yeah, so he's putting out the kids in that. But are they ready to be put out in the Premier League? That's it. That's another point.
You would almost feel sad for Arsenal, wouldn't you? You'd like to see them get a win at this stage. It's gone so horribly wrong.
Yeah, we're lucky we're very impartial here, so we're both going for Southampton win. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's we won't feel too badly for Arsenal. We let them see how they go. But I think it looks like a Southampton win. They're playing all the football. Hasenhüttl, a fantastic manager, and who knows, maybe he'll actually end up in the home dugout. If they're looking at viable alternatives to Arteta, they could certainly do a lot worse than employ Ralph Hasenhüttl.
Yeah, absolutely. And Southampton, very good value for their position in the league. It's been no fluke, and they're getting their consistency. Definitely consistency in goals. Danny Ings looks like he's fresh as a daisy coming back. No worries about him. Yeah, so Southampton win. I totally agree with you there, Mick. And maybe by a couple of goals if things stay going the way they are. Tomorrow night then, Wednesday night, we have Leicester at home to Everton. And that's at 6. Oh, sorry, that's 6 o'clock as well. Okay.
Yeah, and I think we have Leeds and Newcastle as well, so we might do that one first.
There's 3 games at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah, okay. On my list, Leicester came first, but we'll go with your Leeds versus Newcastle tomorrow at 6, which is going to kind of catch people off. That's Wednesday at 6 o'clock. We've got 3 games tomorrow. So Leeds at home to Newcastle. What do you see happening here, Mick? You aren't too complimentary of Newcastle last week, but they got the win they needed anyway.
Yeah, it was a great winner, actually. A header by Dwight Gale.
So who knew he was even still there?
Yeah, Dwight Gale, the famous, he scored a couple of big goals at Selhurst Park one night. I think any of our Liverpool followers will remember him with great fondness, I'm sure. But so look, Newcastle back-to-back wins. They have 3 wins in 5 now, under Steve Bruce. If you're looking at Leeds from the other point of view, Newcastle, if they can keep Wilson going up front, 7 goals. They have Shelby there. They have Matt Ritchie as well. They've been doing all right, Newcastle. They've been pretty solid. Like, Steve Bruce gets a lot of stick, probably from the Newcastle fans. I think outside that, people recognise that the Newcastle job, it's not like the days of Kevin Keegan where you have a bit of money to spend and stuff. You have, Mike Ashley over you. So he can't be the easiest person to work for. Leeds are kind of, been slipping down the table. They're the great entertainers of the league, but they have 1 win in 5 now. And they've conceded 22 goals, and only West Brom have actually conceded more. Leeds have conceded more goals than Sheffield United, who are rock bottom with 1 point. Back-to-back defeats against West Ham and Chelsea. I know they were probably a little bit unlucky against West Ham. they just got done by 2 set pieces. They're just not strong enough defending set pieces at the moment. Any free kicks or corners that could go in. I mean, Bonner got the winner. It was a free header, with I think maybe with 10 minutes left. So, to give up a goal at that stage, which would have been a crucial point. Bielsa will, I don't think he's really going to be pragmatic, but you'd be hoping that for Leeds' sake that they can, they can bounce back here and maybe get a win over Newcastle. Just their ability to move the ball around the pitch might, pull that Newcastle defence out of position. Bamford, he kind of goes a little bit hot and cold. He's a lot of shots. I think he had, up until last week, the most shots in the Premier League. So, they're not afraid to take on chances, but they're just lacking that little bit of quality, I think, in certain areas, especially in defence, where, the goalkeeper can be excellent, but he let in a poor goal last week now in the West Ham game, but yeah.
Made a couple of great saves after it, though.
Yeah, you see, that's it. Like, he probably sums up Leeds. Can be absolutely fantastic and be very good to look at, but they always probably have that little bit of, innocence or lack of experience.
Do you think they're lacking a bit up front when Bamford doesn't score? I know he got goals at the start of the season. Then could you see them in the transfer market going for an extra striker, a different option, maybe somebody with more Premier League experience?
The only thing is, like, there's so many teams out there that are probably looking to bring in a number 9 or that type of striker that Bielsa would want at the top of that diamond. It kind of is like the Harry Kane type player is perfect for that, So, I mean, there's not too many Harry Kanes around or someone of that standard.
There's only one Harry Kane. With what he's doing this year when he's dropping off and what he can do when he goes right up top, he's been immense. But we'll talk about Spurs. What do you think? Prediction for this one then tomorrow at 6:00. Leeds at home to Newcastle.
I think I think Leeds will probably bounce back. I think 2 defeats in a row is a little bit tough on them, so I fancy them just maybe to come out on top in this one. I think with football and ability, they'll just pull that Newcastle defence a little bit all over the place, and they might be able to slip a couple of balls in behind.
Okay, I'm going for a Newcastle win. I totally disagree with you. Also, we have Leicester at home to Everton.
Yeah, so we're looking here at the, Leicester and Everton. 3rd versus 7th here. Everton coming back from, that great win they had over Chelsea. The big news from Everton's point of view is that Coleman and Rodriguez are supposedly back. Now, I would say at this point that Coleman is probably more important to be coming back than Rodriguez, just because he gives them, because they don't have any fullbacks really at the moment. Against Chelsea, they had been playing with a kind of 5 at the back from the start of the season, when they had Coleman and Lucas Digne, who was playing at left back, and they had their 3 centre halves. But he kind of had to go to 4 against Chelsea because the 2 games previously, he ended up playing with Fabian Delph and Iwobi as wing backs, and that wasn't working. So he went probably with 4 centre halves. He played Ben Godfrey at left back, who they signed from Norwich last year. He's a centre half, and Mason Holgate, he went right back. And it worked against Chelsea. They were kind of riding their luck at times, but they got there. A 1-0 win over Chelsea was a massive win for them. But you're looking at Leicester then, Rodgers, 24 points, with the most wins in the league now with 8, but 4 losses and no draws. So they're either sort of good or they're just very bad, Leicester. They don't really seem to have that consistency. Now, the thing about Leicester is they're a very dangerous team. They can probably beat anyone on their day, to be fair to them, into division, and it suits them probably against even the better teams because, when they rely on Vardy's pace, etc., who's at 10 goals. Madison's actually been coming back into a bit of form recently. Yeah. He's been getting back in, playing in that 10 role, 3 goals and 1 assist this season. But I think, maybe that win over Chelsea was kind of papering over the cracks a little bit for Everton.
Yeah.
So, at a push here, I'd probably go for a Leicester win, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw.
Leicester blew Brighton away in the first half last weekend, and a lot of teams have found it quite hard to play against Brighton, but Leicester obviously didn't. They had that game won in the first half. Not much happened in the second, but when as you said, Leicester win or lose, it's one or the other, which Leicester will turn up. But so you're going for Leicester to beat Everton? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Leicester will get one over on Everton. Yeah.
Okay, then tomorrow at 8 o'clock, we have 3 more games. I'm going to start with Fulham at home to Brighton. Fulham could get something out of this. If they could get a home win here, they will be full of encouragement after that point against Liverpool.
Yeah, I think Fulham will actually will probably get over Brighton on this one, to be honest, because that win over or that draw with Liverpool, I should say, has really kind of given them the confidence to push on a little bit. So I think what will probably happen is that Fulham could maybe kind of kick on and give themselves a fighting chance here. Brighton just don't have the goals. We spoke before about kind of relying on Adam Lallana, and the thing is then Lallana is not going to be fit. Like Liverpool let him go for a reason; they just couldn't get him onto the pitch. And you're looking at Parker then with Fulham. He seems to be getting a bit of a tune out of him. Lookman has been, he looks very dangerous. I think he's on loan from Leipzig at the moment. And then we have Cavallero, who also looks like a very tricky player. He was a constant thorn in the Liverpool defence last game. Loftus-Cheek, who he hasn't really been using that much, which is slightly surprising. But I found that the fans seem to make a real difference against Liverpool. I don't think they will have them now with the restrictions being changed in the London area. But yeah, I think Fulham will maybe push on and get a win here, and maybe Brighton could be getting sucked back into that bottom 3 because they're only 2 points ahead of Fulham. So Fulham can get the win here; they can move above Brighton in the table.
Okay, Fulham win for you there. Then we have tomorrow at 8 as well. Liverpool at home to Spurs.
Yeah, I suppose this is the game of the midweek, I should say. I was going to say weekend there for a second. So, yeah, I mean, Liverpool looking to bounce back, I suppose, from, dropping points at Craven Cottage, and Spurs the same, also dropping points against Palace. Liverpool would have been expected or more likely to get a win over Fulham. Palace is a difficult place to go. Roy Hodgson, good manager. And, Zaha can be very dangerous. We spoke about Eze a couple of weeks ago, about the guy that got in from QPR, I think around 20 million, 18 million pounds, I think. He was excellent. A constant threat, and gives them that little bit of a balance now. This is going to be a big game, and it'll probably go one of 2 ways. Like, it's either going to be a classic or it's going to be a stalemate.
And a lot of the big games this year have been stalemates, and have been absolutely terrible stalemates. So we would be hoping that it's not going to end up a 0-0.
Yeah, well, you look at Liverpool, their home form has been fantastic. Where Liverpool are dropping points is away from home. So Liverpool have 6 home wins this season. Now, the XG for this game is looking at Liverpool are expected to score 3 goals at home every home game to play. With Spurs actually away from home have an XG of 2. So look, I know that's it's not exactly a perfect science, and I wouldn't be relying on it too much, but that would suggest that there's going to be goals here. If you start thinking about what way these 2 teams want to play, you look at Liverpool. If they play their classic style, they're going to come out all guns blazing first few minutes and really push on and go at Spurs. But to be honest, that will probably suit Spurs. I think Mourinho is going to be happy enough to go to try and contain Liverpool and look at hitting them on the break. So if we're making a case for Tottenham here, we have to be thinking, Liverpool dropped points against Villa. Now, I'm not saying the Spurs are going to do what Villa did, but they're going to be playing that high line. Now we have to start thinking about Liverpool's injuries. So Joel Matip is a doubt. I think he had a back spasm. He's expected to play, but he was taken off at half time against Fulham. So then you're looking at their centre-backs could be a partnership of Henderson and Fabinho, or maybe Nat Phillips will come back in. So what does Klopp do here? Does he kind of take the Frank Lampard approach and just lock up the middle of that pitch and kind of restrict their own play and think, okay, well, let's take a point here, preserve injuries, and you move on? Or do you go out and do you attack Tottenham? Do you play the Liverpool way, if you will, and try and put them away and play swashbuckling football?
But why shouldn't they play the Liverpool way? They've got like Firmino, Salah, Mane. As Mourinho was talking about the injuries, today he was talking about, he was saying they still have a lot of their best players. How can that team go out and surely they're going to try break them down, you know?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely true. And Salah's been on fire. You know, he scored 10 goals. Mane only has 4 goals this season, 1 assist. Diogo Jota, he's out now for 8 weeks. And Firmino, does he have 1 or 2 league goals this season?
Mm.
So, you know, I think Jota has been kind of, you know, he's been an excellent addition. And you'd have to question, you know, Klopp playing him in that midweek game against Michelin as well, the game where he picked up the injury. There was no need for him to do that. You know, that was the deadest of dead rubbers. And he puts Jota out there, and now he's out for 8 weeks. So you're
It
looking
just
at
goes
Jota
to show he was. I know he has done the business. Probably got in because of a couple of little bit of injuries and whatever, but he was never really a first choice. He's never bought to be a first choice.
Yeah, well, you know, the way Liverpool work is they probably bought Jota thinking, okay, this is someone who maybe might grow into the next. There would have been very little pressure on him this year, you know, to really get in and to not expect to be starting or even putting immediate pressure on that front three. But if you were picking on merit and not going by, you know, the reputation of the guys that were there, you'd have to say that Jota deserves to start in that front
Yeah,
three.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
you. But to me, this one looks like Mourinho's rubbing his hands in a position where they're doing quite well in the league, and his tactic of sitting back. If they don't beat Liverpool at home, what's going to be said? You know, like nothing. You know, they're not on. They're going in under no pressure to attack. Get a point would be a great result for Spurs when you think of it. Look at how good Liverpool are at home. So this is just set up for Spurs. There won't be any fear going into this one. I think this might suit Spurs.
yeah, and you know that's what I'm seeing when I'm going out for it as well. You know, I mean Alexander Arnold, easy for me to say. You know, he didn't last a full game last week, and even you know, Robinson's deputy, the left back, I can't think of his name has gone out of my head now, but he's out now as well. So, like Robertson, I heard someone say the other day that every time you turn on a football match, Andy Robertson seems to be playing in it. You know, every time you watch something on TV, he's there. So he's going to have to play like how many games over the next few weeks as well. You know, what do Spurs have to do if they are going to beat Liverpool? You know, Liverpool press very intensively around the middle of the pitch. Okay, so they can play their high line because you know the opposition midfielders don't really get the chance to look up and to be able to get the ball through. But if you're looking at Ndombele, Lo Celso will probably come in or whichever one of those start. I think Ndombele has the ability to kind of take the ball under pressure. So if he can perform in Ndombele, and you're looking at pushing on then with Kane and Son or trying to get something out of those two. You know, if everything kind of clicks, you can kind of see maybe the argument is that Liverpool might just play directly into Tottenham's hands, a bit like Manchester City did.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, what way do you see it going as a result? Liverpool and Spurs.
I'm going to go for a Tottenham win here.
Tottenham win.
Yeah, I think the circumstances are bringing it that way. To be honest,
I
I
think
think
I
they'll
agree with you, Mick. Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
all
What did
set for
say?
Liverpool 2-0 win probably. But I'll go. Yeah,
Liverpool to lose at Anfield. Yeah, that's the big ask, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to keep moving on. We've got another 3 games to do, and there's only about 1 hour until the Wolves and Chelsea game kicks off. So we're going to try go through these ones maybe a little bit quickly. We got West Ham at home to Palace. West Ham flying high.
yeah, so West Ham Moyes is doing a great job. He really has rebuilt his reputation. You know, he was obviously you have the United job. I think whatever about the United job, the likes of the Sunderland job really kind of damaged him for a while. Then of course he was, you know, taken on at West Ham and then fired. But they came back to him, and you know it's really paid off for West Ham. They've been excellent. You know, 20 points, sixth in the league. You know, beat Leeds last game 2-1. Very dominant at set pieces. Very functional. You know, David Moyes is going to build a team that are going to be functional. They're going to, you know, do the simple things correctly. They mightn't have that much flair to them, but they will, you know, they will do the simple things right. They will defend well, and they'll be good at set pieces. You know, they're solid in the middle. They have Suchek and Rice in there. Both have been excellent. I think they'll stay with a back four. They had been using a five, but Masuaka, the left back, he's out. So I think he's out for maybe 6 to 8 weeks. So they're probably going to leave Cresswell as as traditional left back and push on then with Kufal on the right. So if you're looking at the battle of this game, it's probably going to be between the West Ham fullbacks and Palace's Eze and Zaha.
Yeah.
Hodgson, they got a great point against Spurs and probably deserved it, as we said earlier, even though the keeper pulled off some fantastic saves, but they really did, they did attack well. And actually Benteke, even though he didn't score and he's been much maligned for the last couple of years, sometimes he just gives that physical presence up front, and people can play off him because he can hold up the ball and he's strong enough to occupy one centre half or even two, because he's very dominant in the air as well. This could come down to kind of a battle of set pieces. Both teams, if you look at Palace against Tottenham, it was all about set pieces, and West Ham are quite strong there as well. If West Ham had Michel Antonio, I would probably back them to get over the line. But I think this one might have a draw written all over it, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, it does look like a draw. Maybe midweek, both teams might be happy enough to settle for a draw in the end of it. We'll see with West Ham and Palace, both in good form going into that one. Should be a good game. Also, then we have Thursday night, we have Villa at home to Burnley. 6 o'clock on Thursday.
Yeah, Villa and Burnley on this one. So Burnley are going to be coming back from, that win they had over Arsenal. You give them, that bit of confidence. Villa are obviously going to be pretty dependent on Grealish again. And, Villa have been solid. They had an excellent start to the season. They have some good players there as well. John McGinn, Grealish, of course.
They're sitting pretty in the table as it is, with the game or 2 games in hand on some people, on some teams. It's been quite a good start. Maybe not recently. It hasn't lived up to it, but they're on 18 points just looking here from 10 games. This could, if they can squeeze a win out of this one again, they're sitting pretty.
Yeah, and you'd have to say on form, you would be fancying them to win this game. I remember Villa only set up last season on the last day of the season, so they are kind of improving again this year. They pushed on a little bit. They've bought well. They have Costa there, who plays as a kind of a holding kind of defensive midfielder, and he's a quite strong player as well. Yeah, they've been solid, and I think Villa will have nothing to worry about this year relegation-wise. I think they've kind of pushed on that a little bit. They've probably gotten that belief, and I fancy them to get one over on Burnley here as well.
Okay, I think I fancy Villa to win this one myself. We're going to move on then to the last one of these midweek fixtures. Is Thursday, 8 o'clock, Sheffield United at home to Man United. Surely this is a foregone conclusion. United away from home, Sheffield United. What do you think, Mick?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, when you're looking at this, Dave, you have the side who, are really struggling, don't seem to have any confidence in the manager. There's talk of the manager being replaced every week.
And then you've got Sheffield United. Yeah.
You saw that one coming, did you?
Yeah, a mile out. I think you done it last week or the week before as well, Mick.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, the problem is probably Wilder probably doesn't get as much criticism as Solskjaer at the moment.
Probably doesn't, yeah. But as we were saying, should you even is it worthwhile replacing the manager after this bad start? Can anybody get Sheffield United out of this hole?
I think we could just, we could nearly just change this conversation to just United, and we could cover the two teams the whole way through. But I know, on a serious note, Sheffield United are in massive trouble, and it looks like they're probably going to stick with Wilder. We've spoken about this before. I mean, what do you do? Is there any point? They massively overachieved last year. The quality's not there with their players. They were fantastic last year. They really, he got the players just totally outperforming anyone's expectations. You look at United now. I suppose Ole really didn't want to lose against City or suffer a humiliating defeat, so he had to kind of set up and be solid against against City in the Manchester derby, and they did that, and they got a
Yeah.
point, and it steadied the ship a little bit. It would have been a disaster if they had to go out and really go gung ho at City and be beaten 2-3-0.
Mm.
You know, there would have been major repercussions maybe for him. But looking at some of the talk around United even after the game, and listening to some of the pundits on TV, and we spoke about this in the media before, that Solskjaer has been getting a pretty easy ride into TV studios, and these are very influential. People listen to what's on the TV. They don't necessarily go and look up journalists, or try and find out what other people who are outside the game, not necessarily former United players, have to think about this. And we even spoke about this, last week or the week before, probably every week. And you ask, what do United need? What do they need to sign in January? And it probably is coming down to it that, Ole is really going to be the fall guy here for them. And, we can say that he's doing a good job. And in fairness, they have 20 points already. They're 8th, and they have a game in hand.
Yeah, they're the farm team in the league as well, aren't they? I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, and Gary Neville said it after the game, and I thought, Keano kind of just said that they need to win a trophy, and okay, well, fair enough, but that was a bit just a little bit kind of a basic answer. But Neville said that United have been winning games in moments, and from individual brilliance. When you think about it, they have been kind of doing that. They haven't really gone out and dominated a team. Look at them against Southampton, they came back. West Ham, they came back. Leipzig, they nearly came back. So they kind of have this horrible start in a lot of games and then come back. There's this bit of individual brilliance. So I think it was like Micah Richards, because the presenter didn't seem to want to ask Keane or Neville, so is Ole the right man for the job? Because that hasn't been pushed to any of these kind of ex-United guys. So Richard said it to him, and he kind of got that answer out of them, that what Neville said is they need to start dominating games, that United haven't been dominating games. And I think it's probably as good as what I've heard of a synopsis of Solskjaer's 2 years in charge, is that they just haven't really dominated teams, or they never really look fully secure in a game. They always look like there's that something, or they will give up a chance. You can never go into a United game or watch a United game feeling confident. Yeah, they're probably going to win this. I think
that's been there before Solskjaer as well, though, in fairness. And I agree with you. They don't dominate, especially for a team that plays two deep lying midfielders most games. You really want to dominate with that. You should have a lot more possession. You should be in control. God forbid Bruno Fernandes gets an injury, because what do United do then?
Yeah, there's massive trouble. He saved Ole's job by coming in January, and that wasn't even. We spoke about this as well. United turned down the chance to sign him in the summer before, so it was kind of a bit of a panic buy. And even we spoke about Cavani coming in as well. It's all well and good to take in Cavani. If let's say Spurs signed Cavani, you would say that's a great bit of business to have an experienced striker who can go in if Kane gets injured. But what's the philosophy at United? So do they sign in Cavani, get him in and play him for 2 years, even if he's in massive success? It's just in 2 years' time, you have to change again.
Yeah, but what's wrong with that? It has all changed, though, Mick. This is the way the Premier League is these days. There's very few long-serving players, and why don't you bring Cavani in as somebody who's not going to be a first-choice striker? No, I know it was an absolute panic buy. I agree with you, but doubting Cavani, going on what he can do just because he's hit 33, but he looks fitter than ever. I think he's if he's fit, he's probably a first choice selection up front now, because there's no consistency in Rashford. Martial, Greenwood is very young, so you'd have to give him a chance, But Cavani is United's out and out striker, I would think now.
Oh yeah, I would totally agree. And they probably had to go get him, because a player that they spent maybe 70 million on in Martial hasn't worked. You know, so like Martial was meant to step into this role of like being able to play as a 9, being able to play actually anywhere in the 3 behind as well. Maybe not an out and out 9, but if you look at like Liverpool, they have that, you know, they have that front three that are going to be together or have been together for a number of years. You look at City, they had Aguero, and you know he was always solid, and he's been there for how many years? If you want to be a team that almost like you go back to the old United sides, you know they had their strikers who were there for a time. They had like almost like a philosophy or the way it was going to be going forward. Now I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
think,
I
you know,
agree with you. And Martial
Liverpool
hasn't.
desperate teams.
Yeah, Martial hasn't been that, and that's what he was bought as. Was this is what we're going to base the team around for the next however many years? This is our wonder kid.
Yeah, and he has the ability to do it, but he just seems to lack the temperament to do it. And
Yeah,
you
he's
know, I mean, a lot
frustrating.
of people would like. I still think selling Lukaku. Now I know there was maybe a stuff going on behind the scenes there, but Lukaku, okay, he's not the best striker in the world, but he had a bit of presence up there, and he would probably get you around 20 goals a season. Now, maybe he didn't score in all the big games, but he could bully a defence and someone that you could play off. I'd
Mm.
have Lukaku over Martial any day of the week, to be honest.
Yeah, I would too. And the thing is, Martial got 20 goals last year.
Yeah,
And
you know,
Rashford and Greenwood got 20 as well in and around. So it's Martial as a United fan, secrets out. Martial is so frustrating to watch, but he has scored goals. I don't know. I would love to see somebody consistent, like a top striker that like Spurs have had Harry Kane. Like there's no
yeah,
question about what way they're going to start every game. Like
and a leader as
with
well.
United now, you don't know who's going to start up front. You've no idea really between four of
And
them. You know.
the thing is, like, you know, these strikers, you know, they don't come cheap. And even if you have the money to get them, I mean, who's out there? I mean, who do you get to go in as a number 9? I mean, Kane is probably up there as the best number 9, or even the way he's playing now, he's kind of even evolved. Like, but he is, you know, the perfect modern centre forward. Like, you know, he's strong. He can, you know, he comes back, he drops into the middle. He can vary his game as well. Like if just put Kane in any other team in the league, like, you know, put him in that Chelsea team, they'd probably win the league. You know, because they have Giroud and Tammy Abraham. So it's not like other teams have these fantastic number 9s. Like Liverpool don't really play with a 9. They have Firmino who plays a different type of role. He's a different type of player. But I
Yeah.
mean, you're out there to, you know, Lewandowski is probably, Benzema are probably the other type of players that are there. You know, are they?
Yeah, well, Roy Keane said it last year. He said like United were being linked with some strikers for 100 million and this, that, and the other. He said, why don't you just put another few million on it and buy Kane? It's the way the market's gone these days, and you are Manchester United after all. They've always bought the best in the league. If anybody is playing well and United want to buy them, everybody wants to go to United.
Yeah, but I think you'd probably have to get into the DeLorean and set it at 88 miles per hour, Dave, and get Michael J. Fox
You
and
think
travel
Harry
back in
Kane had
time.
turned down a big
I don't
big
think
money move
there
to
would.
United?
I don't think you couldn't. There's no way Daniel Levy would sell Harry Kane. To be honest, would you like to be even going in with a bid to Daniel Levy to say you're going to buy Harry Kane? You'd probably have to pay off the stadium. So
I don't
yeah,
know.
no,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think.
Like, I mean, if a player wants to go, if they're linked with a club, and United are the biggest club in
But
England, I
they're
don't
not
know.
even the biggest club in Manchester now anymore, Dave.
uh,
There's been a revolution.
yeah. No, they still
I
are.
don't know if like United would be attractive for players now, to be honest, unless they're going for money. To like when you're looking at it, I mean, is Solskjaer really going to? Is he going to
Well,
sell it?
the Haaland thing was one, wasn't it? Like, I mean,
Who's his agent?
yeah. I
Mino
know.
Raiola. So
Yeah.
you know that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, that was the go on.
Haaland, yeah, would be perfect in big physical player.
Well, that was a huge
Um,
loss for United. Solskjaer went to speak to him and everything, and when you couldn't, I don't know if Solskjaer can attract the top names as well. I don't really think he has the pulling power.
yeah, and you would have
Unfortunately,
thought like the whole Norwegian thing might have some. Well, look, to be honest, it probably has no influence on it. I suppose we're kind of thinking. Don't forget, his dad, of course, played for Man City and had a run
Yeah,
in actually with Roy Keane. I don't know if you've actually heard about that one of
I have heard
Alfie
about that
Haaland
one.
and
Yeah.
Roy Keane. Yeah, it's not that famous, but yeah. So maybe his son isn't the biggest fan of Manchester United, considering his father nearly lost a leg against him. So.
Right. Okay. Well, anyway, United to back to the games. United to beat Sheffield United. Then I presume, Mick.
Yeah, and if they don't, Dave, it's like Solskjaer just has to walk, to be honest. But yeah, they will beat. They have to
Okay.
beat Sheffield United. Like
Okay, grand. Well, that's everything for midweek anyway. Yeah, as I said, don't get caught out. There's 3 games at 6 o'clock on Wednesday as well. So there's lots of games this week, and Premier League is it's shaping up to be a very exciting one. Lots. Apart from Sheffield United, there's a lot of teams are going to be stuck together down at the bottom. You got the likes of Arsenal, Burnley, Fulham, and then you got like the mid-range ones are all picking up points as well. It looks like at least nobody's going to run away with it. Like Liverpool last year, they probably had it won at this time last year.
yeah, I mean Liverpool went to, I think at one stage they were 25 points clear last season, and I know every week when we do this, we were almost thinking like maybe Liverpool, they could slip up here because everyone wants to see a title race. It's not that we dislike Liverpool or don't think they're a good team, because when they turn it on, Liverpool, they are streets ahead of everyone else, to be honest. Even with the injuries that they've had, against Leicester, they were fantastic. Against Wolves, they were just, you know, they blew them away.
Yeah.
So
And they've
for the
gotten
sake of
lucky
it,
with their fixtures over Christmas as well.
yeah, they actually, I did look at that. They have
Apart
got
from tonight, they haven't got. Well, you would imagine they're not very testing games for the next 4 or 5. I think they've got pretty. They've got a good run in over Christmas.
So yeah, you're looking at, hopefully it'll just be a bit of, wouldn't it be great to be going into the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, and maybe there's 2 or 3 teams, and you want to see Jose Mourinho trying to wind up Jurgen Klopp, and you want to see Klopp, maybe decapitating the journalist or something in a post-match interview.
Yeah,
This is
well,
what we want to see.
a good old Klopp. He doesn't like to lose, does he? Jesus, he's
Yeah.
blamed everything so far. He's a terrible man for losing. So
Yeah, well, look, that's the sign of a winner, I suppose.
absolutely.
But if we look, like, you really want Frank Lampard in there as well, and Rodgers to collapse with a few games to go or something. It's written. That's what we want to
What
see.
have you got against Brendan Rodgers, man? What
But
have you
he's
got?
Rodgers. He's Icarus. He just gets so close to the sun, and his wings fall apart, and he plunges to it. So that's it. He's Icarito.
Okay,
and
okay.
That's Rodgers.
Well, we're going to leave it at that because I need to edit this before 6 o'clock and get it up before the first game is on.
You're not worried that Brendan Rodgers is going to be listening, Dave, are you?
No, and you've been getting Skype calls the whole way through the interview, so you better get off and answer that.
Oh, it's just some students. They're fine.
Right, I'll talk to you later, Mick.
Okay. See you, Dave.
Bye-bye.